one of the ways that we express that in English is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? So there's something greater that happens in the synergy. Go to our website, which is HebrewLearningCircles.org. Go to Jewish Resources, scroll down to Parsha Videos, and you'll find the source sheet right there. Parashat VaYakhel Pekudei. I'm actually going to start by reading the psukim, the verses, and let me invite you to look for two things that are unusual, that call for digging deeper. This is the Parsha is an extension of Kitisa, where we're starting to we get the instructions for building the Mishkan, the Tabernacle in the desert, and this Parsha continues with the building and with bringing more donations. Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Israel vayomer alehem. Moses then convened, called together the entire community of Israel, and said to them, Ele hadvarim asher tziva Adonai la'asot otam. These are the things that God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, has commanded you to do. So we're in the middle of building the Mishkan. What would you imagine is the next pasuk, is the next verse? Here comes the next verse. Sheshet yamim te'aseh melacha uvayom hashvi'i yeh lachem kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton la'Adonai kol ha'osevo melacha yumat. On 6 days, work may be done, but on the 7th day, you shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to Adonai. Whoever does any work on it shall be put to death. Strong words. And the next two psukim, we just read verses 1 and 2, and then we have verse 3 and 4, which goes into more details of observing the Sabbath. And then on verse 5, we come to the verse that you would have expected. Chumitchem teruma la'Adonai, kol nediv libo yevi'eha. Take from among you gifts to Yud Kei Vav Kei to Adonai. Everyone whose heart is so moved shall bring them. Tumat Adonai Zahav v'chesef u'nechoshet. Gold, gifts for Adonai, gold, silver, and copper. Two unusual things stand out in these 5 sentences, of which we read 3. One is, why does the Torah emphasize Moses gathering all the people, the entire people of Israel? Could have said, just gather the people. 2, isn't mentioning the mitzvah of Shabbat observance, which means the ceasing of work, isn't that out of place in the middle of the details of building the Mishkan? Thus, may there be a meaningful connection, a link between the mitzvah of Shabbat and the building of the Mishkan. And let's see where the Izhbitzer goes with it. Obviously, you can count on him going deeper. So the Izhbitzer begins with quoting the verses that we just read, and he continues. Ha'inyan hu shene'emar Shabbat kan kodem melechet hamishkan. So the issue that I'm going to clarify, says the Izhbitzer, is that Shabbat, the observance of Shabbat, is mentioned right before the building of the Mishkan. כי בבניין המשכן נתחברו כל ישראל בליבם מבלי שום התגאות אחד על חברו. And how is this meaningful? He says, because through the building of the Mishkan, all of the people of Israel have connected their hearts together, without competition or trying to present themselves superior one over the other. Ki batchila asu kol chacham lev b'mlechet hamishkan kol echad et avodato. Now, what he's going to do next is going to explain that. He's going to open that up a little bit more. You may be asking yourself, who cares? I mean, what does that have to do with anything, that all of a sudden they're all copacetic, right? Who cares? Well, what does that have to do with Shabbat, with the Mishkan, with the question at hand? So he's going to explain. How do we know that they did not, that this is how they bonded? Because in the beginning, כי בתחילה עשו כל חכם לב במלאכת המשכן, כל אחד את עבודתו. In the beginning, each one of the craftsmen, each worked on their specific task regarding the, within the many different tasks of building the Mishkan. והראה לו כי עשו מלאכה נפלאה me'od. And it was evident that each one of them did wonderful, extremely wonderful work. In other words, they were very skilled, and they did it to the max of their ability, and it was great quality of workmanship. ואחר כך, כאשר ראו החיבור שנתחבר יחד כל העבודה, כל היריעות והקרשים. But later, when they saw that the way the different pieces that each one of them worked on individually matched together, connected together, and he's going to elaborate, כל היריעות והקרשים, all the fabrics, all the tarps, all the wooden planks, etc. ראו כי כל אחד שייך לחברו כאילו עשאם אדם אחד. They could see that all the parts they made fit together. Each piece belonged, as it were. This is the idiom that he's using. They belong together. They fit in together so well that they realized that it was as if one person actually created all those pieces. והבינו כי כל מה שעשו לא היה בשכלם. And they understood that what they had created was not created by their own mind alone, each one of them. רק בסיעת השם יתברך ביד כל העושה במשכן. But rather, this was aided, this was coordinated by the blessed God, who has assisted or has guided each one of the individual crafts, men and women, שאחר כך שלמות צורת הבניין, such that the entire building would come together into a perfect whole. ואיך יוכל להתגאה אחד על חברו? So then, therefore, how could one be prideful by comparison to his or her fellow. Since it's not on his own merit that it came out so well. He did not do it with his own mind alone, that he could take pride of it, but he or she were aided by the Holy One, by God. It's phenomenal. You get the picture, and I've experienced this, and I wonder, I'm actually pretty confident that you've experienced the ultimate in teamwork. Have you ever been in a team where the project falls into place seamlessly, right? There's some kind of synergy, some kind of working in concert with other in a group where people are in lockstep with one another. And there's that sense that there's something bigger happening, right? And I think one of the ways that we express that in English is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? So there's something greater that happens in the synergy. There's this really wondrous feeling of how people can fall into that groove, that kind of cooperation with one another. And this is what he's talking about, right? But here he's not talking about a team of 3 or 4 or the usual size of a group cooperating. He's talking about the entire people, the craftsmen and women, as well as the people who are making the donations. Later, we'll see that he will stress the point that everybody, every person in the entire body of the people of Israel had some role in building the Mishkan. Just appreciate that for a moment. And he continues, V'chen b'Gemara Megillah Tet Aleph B'Maaseh Talmai. So now he's going to bring an example from actually a story in the Talmud, in the Gemara. It's the Tractate of Megillah, page 9. In the case of Talmai. Talmai was an Egyptian ruler who did the following. And by the way, when you check out the source sheet, I did copy that section from the Gemara with translations. You can explore it there. Shechines ein bet zkenim. So Talmai gathered together 72 elders or scholars. Vehiskimu kulam lede'a achat. Vechatvu lo kama shinuim. This Egyptian ruler decides to bring together 72 Israelite scholars to translate the Torah into Greek for the first time. This is the first time that the Torah is translated into Greek. The setting is that he had each one of them locked in their own cubicle or their own room. So they worked separate from one another, each creating their own translation. So each had their own version of making slight changes, as I said, as is common to translate well. And what happens at the end is that they all found that all their little changes, all their little tweaking as they're translating were the same. There was no discrepancy. V'dama kol echad belibo she'asa v'chiven lechokhma amuka. Each one of them thought that they were that they were really digging deep and drawing on their wisdom and finding an interpretation that's unique to them. But when they saw that they all actually wrote the same corrections and tweaks, as hibinu kaya b'siyat Hashem, then they understood that they were all aided. They were all supported from the higher realm. ולזה נאמר, Parashat Shabbat etzel Melech HaMishkan. And now the Izhbitzer is going to tell us, this is why the Torah brings the section about the observance of Shabbat right before the building of the Mishkan. Ki ikarit chabrutam hayta mitzvat Shabbat. Because the essence of their synergy, he's talking about the craftsmen back to the people who are involved with building the Mishkan, came from the mitzvah of the practice of Shabbat. Really? Why? He's going to explain. Ki Shabbat hi toch kol ha-mitzvot hanimtza bam kavana l'shem shamayim. Because there's a piece of Shabbat. Now listen to this. You really have to think poetically and kind of abstractly here. This is not technical, because here he is. Here it is. Ki Shabbat a piece of Shabbat, exists, is present, toch kol ha-mitzvot, inside all the mitzvot of the Torah, that are done for the sake of heaven, l'shem shamayim. V'zeh kavanah nikret Shabbat. So when you do a mitzvah for the sake of heaven, in other words, you're doing it in purity, so that intention is actually called Shabbat, the Sabbath. So pure intentionality is the essence of the Shabbat. That's a profound thought, a profound understanding of Shabbat, which digs underneath the observances, the whole system of rules, of abstinences and practices. Underneath that, he's teaching us, there is the pure intentionality to do just for the sake of heaven, just with pure spiritual intent. וגם במלאכת המשכן שכל עבודתם הייתה לכבוד שמיים, and therefore also in the building, the actual tasks of building the Mishkan, that was all in honor of heaven, in order that the indwelling presence of God would be present amongst Israel. ובזה נתחברו ליבם, כי השכינה לא הייתה שורה, אף שנחסר יתד אחד. And through this, the hearts and minds of all of Israel connected, synergized. Why? Because the Holy One, the indwelling presence of God, would not have become manifest if there was even one spoke missing, meaning not even one task or one little piece by anyone. Everybody had to give their little piece. And it would not have been complete without it. ולכן, לא היו יכולים להתגאות אחד על חברו כלל. And therefore, none of them were able to be prideful over anyone else at all. אף עושה הארון נגד עושה יתדות החצר. Even the one who's tasked with building the Ark of the Covenant, which was the most important piece, most important artifact in the Mishkan, that was placed in the Holies of Holies, could be prideful by comparison to a person who's just making plain wooden spokes or stakes for enforcing the fence of the outer courtyard. K'ma'amar Gemara, as is written in the Talmud, and this time it's in the Tractate of Sota, page 40a. It says, "Ma ichpat lecha mini u'minei itkalas ila." So he's bringing here a textual reference from the Gemara. There's a story there where Rabbi Abahu and his assistant. There could have been the assistant was so good that he claimed that he could have been teaching everything Rabbi Abahu is teaching by himself. He didn't really need to be the assistant. He was trying to show that he's at least as good as his master or greater. And when that is being told to Rabbi Abahu, so he says, his response is, so who cares whether it comes through me or whether it comes through him, the master or the assistant? Those are still the living words of God. The Izhbitzer is going to conclude here, is saying, in that vein, V'zeu vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. He goes back to the beginning and says, this is what it means that Moses gathered all the people of Israel, meaning that each part that any one of the people of Israel were playing was as crucial as the other, and in the building of the Mishkan, they were all equal. And with that, he concludes. As I see it, there's a profound appreciation of that place of pure intentionality. And in that place of pure spiritual intentionality, all the externals even out. Everybody is equal. And it seems to me that what he's teaching us here is a really profound lesson about the perils and the reality of the ego. And he's talking about pride and pridefulness and competitiveness and the need that you and I, on most days, have to elevate ourselves or denigrate others, or sometimes just, to be, it gets a little more convoluted than that, as we know from psychological studies and inner work. We can denigrate ourselves and elevate others. It takes all kinds of different shapes. And he's talking about the possibility that's represented in both in Shabbat and in the building of a physical container for spirituality, and the possibility, the opportunity to go to a place where the externalities don't matter, and each person's contribution, each person's soul, your soul, my soul, the other person's soul, a Jewish soul, a non-Jewish soul, a woman, a man, orientations, no matter where you're, the way you position yourself in the world, there's a place where all our hearts are the same, and there's a potential to come together in synergy as precious souls that are all connected to and guided through the higher realms. What a beautiful, beautiful, profound vision. May we all be blessed to have that flavor and have that have that opening in our lives more often than not. Please come back next Wednesday again. Thank you for studying with us today. Shalom for now. Again, click subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. We really appreciate that. Like to have that extra layer of connection with you. Like and subscribe. Come back.
רבים לא יוכלו לכבויס אהבו מים רבים לא יוכלו